Hi everyone, I'm Mike, the Two-Lane Traveler, here for another road tripping video. If you find my video interesting, I'd truly appreciate it if you would click the like button and also subscribe to my channel. Thanks. Anyway, I was living in Brevard, North Carolina at the time, so I drove to Chicago with my Easy 66 guidebook in hand and followed Route 66 through 8 states all the way to Santa Monica. As I was heading west, I started thinking about the route I was going to take to get back to North Carolina. By the time I reached the Pacific Ocean, I realized that there were many places and things along Route 66 that I had missed and wanted to see. Somehow I had missed the Blue Whale of Catoosa and the Cadillac Ranch, just to name two of many. So I decided to turn around and drive 66 back to Chicago, seeing many of the things I completely missed on my earlier westbound journey. In the end, I saw a lot and took a lot of pictures, albeit with a not-so-great 3-megapixel digital camera. I was recently looking at the pictures from that trip 17 years ago, and I noticed that there were several things I photographed on that trip that are no longer there. On social media, I belong to several Route 66 groups, and people often lament the treasures that have been lost on the famous road due to the rigors of time, natural disasters, retirement of business owners, and many other reasons. Some people even suggest that the historic old route may be dying. Personally, I don't think the road is dying. I think something different may be happening. But let's begin by taking a look at some of the things we have lost. Bill Shays Museum was originally opened at its final location in 2002. The museum was alive and well in 2007, but after Bill's death in 2013, within 2 years the museum was sold and the contents were auctioned off. The Glancy Motor Hotel in Clinton, Oklahoma, first opened in 1950 as the Glancy Downtown Motel. By 1959, they began expanding, adding rooms and a pool. In 1962, after further expansion, they changed the name to the Glancy Motor Hotel. In the early 1970s, the Glancys sold the motel, and it wasn't long before it began its long, slow decline. In 2019, the property was condemned, a last-gasp effort by members of the community to revive the Glancy fell short. By November 23, it was gone. All that is left today is the sign with a large dirt patch behind it. The Java Stop was a coffee shop in Dwight, Illinois, across Route 66 from the Ambler-Becker gas station. It was a beautiful and architecturally unique building, created by stacking 2 shipping containers. I think it was relatively new in 2007, but it only lasted a couple of years. It's rumored to be in Oregon. Ella's Frontier Trading Post was located in Joseph City, Arizona. The building was put up in 1927, and it took the Ella's name in 1955. Ella died in 1984, and her place was empty and decaying when I first saw it in 2007. By 2023, there was nothing resembling a building on that site anymore. The Route 66 Afton Station Packard Museum in Afton, Oklahoma, was a combination Packard Museum and Route 66 memorabilia. It was housed in a 1930s Eagle DX gas station. This was a popular stop along Route 66. The owners passed away, Laurel Kane in 2016 and David Kane in 2018. The Packard collection and Route 66 memorabilia were sold off. The building stands empty today, though it appears in good enough condition that perhaps another entrepreneur may someday bring Afton Station back to life again. The Howe Indian Chief was one of the first muffler men I ever saw back in 2007. He stood in front of a car dealership in Clinton, Oklahoma. Unfortunately, he disappeared at some point, and I never saw him on Route 66 again. The good news is that he reappeared not far from his old spot, just off of 66 in Calumet, Oklahoma. In 2007, the Paradise Motel in Tucumcari was on its last legs, but the glorious neon sign of a woman diving into the water was still there. 2 fires in 2017 and 2018 became the death blow for the motel, which was bulldozed. The sign was immediately removed after the fire and was apparently added to the owner's private collection. Operating in its original location since 1971, Ann's Chicken Fry House in Oklahoma City was a fun, iconic place to eat, write on the walls, and just have a good time. 50 years later, the iconic restaurant closed its doors for good in 2021 due to the COVID-19 pandemic. There are some other places along Route 66 that haven't quite disappeared, at least not yet. They're still there, but in some cases just barely, and it's probably just a matter of time before nature reclaims them permanently. John's Modern Cabins in Newburgh, Missouri was a fun place to explore a decade ago. Access was easy and several of the cabins were still standing. Even an outhouse was there. It was my favorite place to visit along 66, and I went there every couple of years. The speed of deterioration of the cabins on each visit was disheartening, and it became obvious that none of the cabins would be standing much longer. A heroic crew of Route 66 supporters managed to stabilize a single cabin under the old neon sign. At least for now, it remains the lone John's Modern Cabin. Wilkerson's store, which closed in 1989, and a few other buildings in a short stretch of Route 66 in Newkirk, New Mexico, were in very bad shape in 2007. They're much worse for the wear today, and before long, Wilkerson's will just be a memory. The Twin Arrows Trading Post near Flagstaff, Arizona was a popular stop for tourists until I-40 started siphoning potential customers off Route 66. The trading post closed permanently in 1995 as business declined. When I first saw it in 2007, it was in bad shape, but the Valentine Diner was at least recognizable as a diner. The Twin Arrows were still standing, but not much else was going on. By 2023, graffiti artists have tagged every vertical surface there, and one of the arrows is missing. For a long time there was discussion about revamping this place, but due to the complexities of the buildings being owned by the Hopi tribe and the land being owned by the state of Arizona, it looks like that ship has sailed. The Baghdad Cafe isn't quite in danger of disappearing, but the Mojave Desert weather hasn't been particularly kind to this quirky eatery. It had been called the Sidewinder Cafe when it played a starring role in an indie film called Baghdad Cafe that came out in 1988. The film has attained cult status throughout Europe, and particularly France, and busloads of tourists arrive almost daily. The Sidewinder was renamed Baghdad Cafe in 1995 to take advantage of its cult status. By 2007, the cafe was still in good condition. Today it's looking quite a bit worse for the wear. The Henning Motel next door, already closed by then, had played a role in the movie as well. By 2015, the Henning had been bulldozed with nothing left but the sign. By the way, if you ever intend to visit the Baghdad Cafe, watch the movie first. Alfie Woodard stars in it, and Jack Palance has a role as well. It's quirky and bizarre, but I really liked it. And I will tell you that the first time Sharon and I visited the real cafe and its inhabitants, it was even more quirky and bizarre than the movie, surreal even. The El Don Motel in Albuquerque, New Mexico was in very nice condition in 2007. It had just been restored along with its beautiful neon sign. The sign is one of my absolute favorites on Route 66. By 2023, the motel looked seedy and run down. The sign was aging badly too, and I was heartbroken when they didn't even turn it on at night. Not all of the news is dire, though. There are surprising numbers of iconic Route 66 sites I photographed in 2007 that are in better condition today than back then. As iconic as the Blue Swallow Motel is, it wasn't in the greatest condition when I visited for the first time. My room was clean and pristine back in 2007, but the exterior of the motel was getting somewhat raggedy looking. The neon sign was in need of repair as well. A few years later, new ownership had brought new life to the place, and another change of ownership has seen the Blue Swallow maintain its status as a true icon of Route 66. The Boots Motel, as it was called in 2007, was on the verge of being lost from Carthage, Missouri forever. The motel was as seedy as they come, and a national pharmacy wanted to purchase the land and bulldoze the Boots so they could put one of their stores on the lot. Fortunately, two sisters stepped forward and bought the Boots, and the 1939 streamlined modern motel was spared. From there it was slowly restored to its origins, room by room, beginning with the back building. The Boots Court was regaining its history, and lots of Route 66 travelers stayed there. In 2021, the building was again sold, this time to the Boots Court Foundation, and it underwent a complete restoration. The Boots Court is now one of the shining examples of what these early motor courts were like. Another great success has taken place in Springfield, Missouri. The first time I passed the Rockwood Motor Court in Springfield, it wasn't called that or anything else. It was a rundown motor court behind a rundown restaurant and gas station. Today the entire area has been restored and the Rockwood is an absolute gem. The Shamrock Motel in Sullivan, Missouri was built in the late 1940s and operated as a motel until around 1980. An avid Route 66 enthusiast purchased the motel and has been restoring it ever since. According to the Shamrock Motel website, they are hoping to open for business in 2025. Yet another Route 66 success story. The Teepee Drive-In, located in Sapulpa, Oklahoma, was built in 1949 and closed a half-century later in 1999. It sat there vacant for many years. Various people had ideas of reopening the old drive-in, but nothing really panned out and it continued to deteriorate. Eventually, after almost a quarter century more, the beautiful new drive-in opened in April 2023. The place is a thing of beauty with an eye-catching sign, a playground, and concession stand. There are also several refurbished Spartan travel trailers on site that can be used for overnight stays. The Painted Desert Trading Post in Chalmers, Arizona was a shell of an old building when I first saw it in 2007. An amazing team of Route 66 enthusiasts turned it into this beautiful building that recreates the original nicely. Without intervention, this popular spot on an early alignment of Route 66 would have eventually collapsed into a pile of rubble. The Gemini Giant of Wilmington, Illinois has been quite a story that isn't yet finished. The most famous of all muffler men has stood along Route 66 in Wilmington for decades. Due to unfortunate circumstances, the Gemini Giant was on the verge of being destroyed, or at the very least being sold and lost to the city forever. With far too much detail to go into right here, the short version is that the city of Wilmington is keeping the beloved giant, and he will be located in a city park still on Route 66 on the other side of town. In the interim, Regiant's restoration crew hauled him to their shop where he is being restored to pristine condition. He will then be placed in his new home in Wilmington. Lucille Hammond's gas station in Hydro, Oklahoma was partially restored in 2007 when I first visited, but today the place is a befitting tribute to the mother of the Mother Road. She was well known and loved, living above her gas station and raising a family, overlooking Route 66 for 59 years until she died in 2000. The building is on the National Register of Historic Places. Now I'd like to mention some places that weren't around in 2007 but have become important parts of Route 66 today. Technically, the Gay Parita did exist in 2007, but just barely. Gary Turner was still building his iconic recreation of a 1930 Sinclair gas station at the time, and not many people had it on their radar. Fast forward to 2011, and the Gay Parita was a must-stop for every Route 66 traveler, and everybody knew Gary. When he died in 2015, the whole Route 66 community was deeply saddened. The Gay Parita quickly fell into disrepair as poachers began stealing everything they could, whether the items were nailed down or not. Fortunately, Gary's daughter Barbara and her husband George moved to Missouri to take over Gary's dream. They've returned the Gay Parita to its former glory and added their own stamp onto it as well. Pop's 66 Soda Ranch in Arcadia, Oklahoma became an instant Route 66 classic the minute it opened. It has a gas station, restaurant, and more flavors of soda than you have ever seen before. And then there's the 66-foot tall soda bottle out front that continually changes colors at night. Pop's actually opened in 2007 and has been going strong ever since. Buck Adams Atomic Curios in Tulsa, Oklahoma is another relatively new favorite stopping point. It's hard to miss as you drive along Route 66 through Tulsa with the 20-plus foot tall Buck Adams staring at you. And just a few weeks ago, Stella Adams joined him. I haven't even had a chance to photograph her yet. Gearhead Curios in Galena, Kansas also opened recently on Main Street in a restored Texaco gas station. A big boy statue stands out front, and it will soon be joined by a giant Muffler Man variant. I would be remiss if I didn't at least mention the ever-growing number of Muffler Men along Route 66 as well. There were 5 when I drove the route in 2007. There are 3 or 4 times that number now, with more coming every week, it seems. I'll do an episode on Route 66 Muffler Men sometime in the future. And finally, Route 66 Motorheads in Springfield, Illinois just stood up their brand new Big John Giant created by Mark Klein. That will be an upcoming trip for me as well. I look forward to seeing this incredible place. It also falls into the What's New category on Route 66.
So going back to the original suggestion that Route 66 is dying, that all the things that made it great are disappearing, I hope this video makes a counterpoint. 66 isn't dying, it's changing, evolving. It hurts to see iconic places along the Mother Road disappear forever, but embrace the new things that are constantly appearing and the new people who are continuously stepping forward to save the past and invent the future. Be comforted by the fact that every time you drive Route 66, it will be a new adventure full of surprises. If you like my video, please consider pressing the like button, and please subscribe to my channel. Thanks.